Sherry, would you like to get us started and welcome everybody?
Thank you, Brooke. Hello, everyone. I'm Sherry Roberts Lumpkin, the president of the Mount Rainier Business Association. Welcome to the MRBA Virtual Candidates Forum. Thank you for your support of our small businesses and all of our local businesses within Mount Rainier. We look forward to working with the City Council on our business interests throughout the year. So thank you.
Great. I'd like to introduce our moderator. My name is Brooke Kidd. I'm the Vice President of MRBA and also with Joe's Move-It Emporium. And we're so happy to welcome back to moderate us again, Rhett Butler.
Thank you so much, Brooke, and thank you, Sherry, as well. My name is Rhett Butler. I'll be your moderator today for today's Mount Rainier Business Association Virtual Candidate Forum. And it's a great day for this. It's beautiful outside. The energy is palpable. And we're going to have a great time. But first, there must be some ground rules. Please place your questions in the chat for Danielle Carter, Tana Shea St. Louis, Valerie Woodall, and Tony George. We will only have one question per topic, and we might not get to your question if it is similar to previous questions. We will run this forum for 90 minutes. The forum will be recorded and shared for your watching in the future. Be respectful and succinct. I would like to introduce at some point our sign language or ASL interpreter, Karen Taylor, who hopefully is either here or will join us soon. Spanish language can also be turned on when watching as well. Candidates, you'll have a chance to introduce yourself however you want to in relation to discussing how you're going to serve the community, and each candidate will have 3 minutes apiece. Questions to candidates will be posed again in the chat. They will be fed to me, so everything is impartial. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer, and it will be timed. Please, again, be succinct. Everything will be fair. With that being stated, I'd like to get started, Brooke, if you're ready.
Yep, let's go.
All right, awesome. First question, and I'll start with Ward 1 candidate, Danielle Carter. Danielle, how do you envision supporting the business community in the coming year? And this question is posed by the Mount Rainier Business Association.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, Rhett, but we were going to start with the candidates each introducing themselves for 3 minutes.
You're absolutely right. I apologize, folks. I apologize.
It's okay.
Candidates, you have 3 minutes. I'll start the timer now. Can we still start with Danielle Carter?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, Danielle, you have 3 minutes and timer starts now.
Thank you. I'm Danielle Carter, and in 2011, I moved to Maryland as a paramedic transplant from North Carolina with the intention to serve the community that I lived in. One of the units that I was a volunteer on was the all-county unit. This unit was not assigned to a specific firehouse, but instead went where and when there was a need for extra hands or backup. That's me. I've always been there for whoever needs me, when they need me, and where they need me. Even after my career-ending injury, I continue to teach and mentor. The very week of my injury, I organized the first Mount Rainier Community Yard Sale. After a couple of years of that, I joined the Mount Rainier CERT and then the Recreation Committee. Since then, I have helped plan and organize many amazing one-time and annual events, including doing outreach during the lockdown. As someone born in the late 60s, I grew up watching shows like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street. I learned early in life that neighbors are important and that your neighborhood is too. If you ever watched either show, you probably noticed that there were a wide variety of residents. Everyone mattered, period. My vision for Mount Rainier is to ensure that our community here stays welcoming to everyone, is accepting to everyone, and gives everyone who lives here the equity they deserve, whether they are a resident of a single family home or one of the apartment complexes. I've lived in many apartments throughout my life, and I know what it feels like to not feel a part of the greater community. I want to change that for those who live in Mount Rainier. I want to give those who live in the apartments the equity in the city that they deserve. There are more than a couple of homeowners who lived in one of the apartment complexes before they bought. Should someone be a homeowner before they feel that they belong? No, they shouldn't, which is why I'm going to propose my apartment liaison plan that will give the apartment residents the equity and real voice in the city they deserve. I want to improve communication in the city beyond the occasional email blast, sporadic newsletter, if you're lucky to get it, the official, unofficial Facebook page, and the listserv. People in the community want to know what is going on, and they need it to be provided by reliable means. There are so many who live in Mount Rainier that have no idea that this forum is happening tonight. It's not because of the lack of advertising on the platforms we have available. It's the lack of platforms we have available for the advertising. I want to make quality of life issues in Mount Rainier a priority, as they should be. I want to develop a process and procedure for handling all quality of life issues that are brought to the attention of the city and city council. I know many times issues that seem less than important tend to drop off the radar. I always taught my EMTs that I was in charge of that just because you don't think someone's in an issue is an emergency, do not deplete the fact that it is an emergency to them and should always be approached in that way. I know that I'm running unopposed, but I want to make sure everyone in Ward 1 knows that I'm running because I genuinely care and want to do great things for our community. We may not agree on everything all the time, but I will always take your needs and concerns seriously and do everything I can to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you. That was actually perfectly at 3 minutes. Wow. Okay, professional.
I've done this.
All right. And that's your Ward 1 candidate, Danielle Carter. Moving over to Ward 2, I'd like to introduce for introduction of herself, Tanashay St. Louis. You have 3 minutes. Start.
Sure, thank you. Hello, my name is Tanashay St. Louis, and I am currently a resident at Kaywood Garden Apartments. I've lived here for 4 years so far. Now, when I present my platform as being an advocate for apartment or, renters, you may think, oh, wait a minute, where's the advocacy for, the people that live in the houses? Trust and believe. You guys are also my priority. I feel there is a disconnect right now when it comes to people who live in apartments. And I do notice that the voting for, our local elections is not as popular with people in the apartments. It really isn't. I did have the fortunate opportunity when I was door knocking to meet some of the residents who live in houses that rent. And they also had many concerns. One concern is the speeding. We all know about the speeding. Personally, I actually, when I first moved, I lived on Eastern Avenue. And I had a car and it was totaled because of the speeding that was happening on Eastern Avenue. I reached out to the community. I was like, hey, what can we do about this? And so everyone was chiming in. It was great. I really love this community because we do what we can to really help each other and support each other. When I tell you guys I love this community, I love this community. It is okay, I'm sorry. So yeah, we were talking about that and they informed me that, that's more, DC government. They would handle the speed cameras and things like that. And so as I've been going along as a resident, I wanted to become informed. Before COVID, I would go to the city council meetings and it just really amazes me on how even the council really looks out for the residents. One great thing that also had me motivated in running is the rent cap. The rent cap, that is very beneficial to me, especially the fact that I'm a renter. So I'm really, really super amazed and really thankful that the mayor and council had passed that rent cap. I'm really, really fortunate to be here in Mount Rainier. I think we were in the first in Prince George's County to pass that. And so I'm really thankful for this forum. I'm so thankful that I'm running. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's all I have to say.
And that is actually time, Tanashay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Beautiful. Next, moving on to Valerie Woodall for Ward 2.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Valerie Woodall, and I am running for the Ward 2 City Council seat. And I hope you come out and vote on May 1st. I have been the City Council member for exactly 1 year now, or just about 1 year. And as your Ward 2 Council member, it's been a real honor to serve this community. I'm proud of the progress we've made so far, and I would be grateful to earn your trust and support for another 4 years. In just 1 year, I've worked to obtain $10,000 for the Community Gardening Committee near Richardson Park. They have some needs to make sure that they have water sources and more accessibility to that program. I supported the Recreation Committee throughout the year, and I've helped lead efforts to fund the Gateway CDC so that it can become a stronger partner that supports our current and future artist community and helps to bring even more economic revitalization to our area. My council colleagues and I also, as Tanashe mentioned, passed historic rent stabilization, becoming the first municipality in the county to do so. I love the day-to-day constituent service of this job, helping neighbors solve problems, listening and learning from your ideas, working to bridge any divisions in our community and more. I have also been in this city since 2011, like Danielle. I'm a mom to 2 Mount Rainier elementary students and a longtime volunteer soccer coach. I served when I was at the PTO level. I served 3 years as grounds committee chair for the PTO. And my day job for a local community development nonprofit has given me a lot of experience, professional relationships, and the knowledge it takes to address municipal problems and to work collaboratively to solve them. My platform is responsible and responsive city government. I share the concerns about communications and making sure that we continue to have better communications. I've also stood next to neighbors for hours while a massive tree has fallen down, and made sure that the PEPCO and all the utilities were called, the police were able to come out and help. And so I would like to continue being responsive to you and working to make city government more efficient. Fiscal responsibility and greater affordability. Obviously,
Right, that's a miracle.
Yes. Let me see here.
Good. Well, we've got a good amount of residents that have come back through. It's a blessing. Thank you, everybody, for gathering, and especially thank you so much to Melissa Sams and Jared and Mr. Kamali for helping us get a safe link and putting it out there between residents and so it was my error in having this be on social media in the first place. So I appreciate everybody returning, because I know you want to hear from our great candidates.
All right. Is everybody ready to resume?
Yes.
Okay. So welcome back. We had some technical difficulties all out of all of our control, but we were listening to Valerie Woodall. And Valerie, you are at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Would you like the remaining 30 seconds?
yes, I would.
Okay. It starts now.
Okay, great. So my platform is responsible, responsive city government, fiscal responsibility, and greater affordability, especially as our Route 1 area here redevelops and revitalizes. We need to make sure that we have spaces that artists, business people, and everyone can afford. Economic development, continuing to diversify our tax base so that we can continue to reduce taxes and make it more affordable again. Safe and healthy streets, sustaining and strengthening the city's volunteer core. This is where, when Tanisha was saying that she loves our community, it's exactly right. Our community is one of the best communities and everybody likes to give back. And then schools and community, and making sure that we have a strong, healthy, happy school population in Mount Rainier as well. So that is my platform, and I look forward to everybody voting on May 1st. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valerie Woodall. Last, Ward 2, Tony George. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone.
Starts now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tony George. I've been a Resident of Mount Rainier for the past 18 years, I live at the Mount Rainier Artist Lofts. I'm running for city council because I love living in Mount Rainier and I care about the future of our city. Our residents deserve a responsive, decisive, and inclusive city council that represents the interests of all residents. Our city council has become complacent. Too often there is rarely a sense of urgency about making decisions. Council has become too comfortable with prolonged indecisiveness. It can take months for council to implement a decisive course of action. We can do better. It's time for new ideas. It's time for bold and innovative leadership. And it's time for me to be your next council member for Ward 2. Most recently, the reluctance to make a decision resulted in violations by council of the city charter guidelines for contract negotiations with our understaffed police department. Contract negotiations that began over a year ago that should have concluded no later than February 1st, 2023, extended into April and only recently were concluded. The prolonged negotiation affected morale and caused officers undue economic hardships. Officers are currently working longer shifts and at risk for burnout due to staffing shortages. Wages for our police officers are lower than neighboring jurisdictions. We risk losing skilled officers to neighboring jurisdictions paying higher wages and offering large signing bonuses. As chair of the city's police review and advisory board, my prior budgeting and management experience, along with very skilled and knowledgeable members serving on the board, has allowed us to do a thorough review and analysis of the police department's budget with the police chief, the city manager, and the city's financial consultant as prescribed by city ordinance numbers 05-2022 that established the board. The board input and intervention averted the resignation of several officers from the police department that is already understaffed by 5 officers, a significant deficit for a small department. Recruitment and retention have to be prioritized. I majored in business administration at Georgetown University. I prepared and managed a $60 million operating budget at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center in the District of Columbia. I worked closely with the district's Office of Economic Development and defended the budget during the U.S. congressional budget hearings on Capitol Hill. As a labor organizer, I have fought and won tough battles for fair wages and advocated for diversity, equity, and inclusion for all. When I was transitioning from working in the corporate world to becoming a full-time artist, my decision to make Mount Rainier home was influenced by its affordability and its thriving and diverse arts community. Gateway CDC's partnership with ArtSpace USA was instrumental in the Mount Rainier Artist Lofts, my residence being built. The Artist Lofts is an affordable work-live space. As an 18-year member resident of Mount Rainier, I've been involved as an artist and a community activist. Due to the pandemic, I became involved in our city over the past 3 years. As a volunteer.
I'm sorry, Candidate George, that's actually 3 minutes. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you all for those great words. And we now know a lot more about you. So thank you for being that person and being very honest. We'd now like to get into our questions, the first of which is coming from MRBA itself. Question 1, and I know I started with Danielle Carter in Ward 1, so I'd like to start now in reverse with Ward 2, starting actually with Tony George. Question 1, and you have 1 minute for an answer. How do you envision supporting the business community in the coming year? Question 1 first for Tony George. 1 minute starts now.
Well, my conversations with business owners has been that they don't even necessarily like the idea of a business association, that they feel those fees are imposed on them and they're not necessarily getting anything in return. So I think the work has to be done to have a meeting of the minds, to talk to business owners, really identify what the business association can do to help to support the businesses that are already here, as well as continue to offer incentives for businesses to come and set up in Mount Rainier. So I think we have to get back to some basics and some fundamentals of why we have a business association, what its purpose is, and how we can better serve businesses in the area.
Thank you, Candidate George. Next, same question for Ward 2 candidate Valerie Woodall. The question again, how do you envision supporting the business community in the coming year? Your question starts now.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I mean, local business is the lifeblood of our community. We have the 34th Street and Rhode Island Avenue area business community. We also have the Barnum Street business area. And I think connecting all of our business owners and businesses together so that we can row in the same direction is quite important to economic vitality. Our economic development director has been doing a great job bringing in investment and more county and state resources to Mount Rainier. For example, the facade improvement program on Rhode Island Avenue is making our business community pop, and it's good and it's exciting. And so we just need to continue pushing in that direction, bringing more people to Mount Rainier, with intentional streetscaping, as well as more safe and better roads for people to walk, bike, and drive and park in. That's quite key as well to economic development. And so my goal in the next year or so is to continue, diversifying our business, bringing more businesses in and making sure that we can lower the tax burdens on everyone. Thank you.
And that's 1 minute. Thank you, Candidate Woodall. Candidate St. Louis, I will repeat the same question and you will also have 1 minute. How do you envision supporting the business community in the coming year? Your answer starts now.
Yes. So how I will support, so I found that living in Mount Rainier that there are some businesses that begin their business here and they end up going to another city in Prince George's County. I really like the idea that we had special grants. It was COVID-19, I believe. We had grants to give to small business owners. I think we should find ways to fund these businesses that want to start their business here in Mount Rainier. I think that would help also, and pretty much getting that word out there as far as advertising their small business.
Thank you very much, Candidate St. Louis. Going over to Ward 1, Candidate Danielle Carter, I'll ask you the same question and you will also have 60 seconds. How do you envision supporting the business community in the coming year? Your 1 minute starts now.
Thank you. I want to find a way for the city to put Mount Rainier businesses first when it comes to awarding contracts and hiring for projects. Why would we hire a landscaper from Largo when we might have a resident who owns their own landscaping business right here in our own backyard? They should be given a chance to bid and be considered first. I also want to work with the Economic Development Department to find solid ways to help fill the vacant business spaces that we already have here in the city. As someone who has made her money working craft shows for over 24 years, I know that the more foot traffic you have come by, the better your odds are for getting businesses and making money. So with that same outline, the more businesses we fill, the more foot traffic we create, which generates more opportunities for our established businesses to benefit. We have to create reasons for those who drive down Rhode Island Avenue to want to stop. And I'm sorry, I've lost my thing, just glitched out. Can you pause?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. We have to create reasons for those who drive down Rhode Island Avenue to want to stop here. One thing I want to start is a quarterly gallery hop. An evening gallery hop is a great way for people to come to our city. Our restaurants, boutiques, glut, and maybe even a coffee shop or bookstore. We have to give them.
And that's 1 minute. I apologize. That's 1 minute.
No, that's fine. It was my glitch. I'm sorry.
No worries. No, thank you. Moving forward for question 2, it's coming from Charnette Robinson in the chat. There's a bit of an explanation before the question, so I'll read it in a total. Danielle Carter and Ward 2 candidates. The Latino Day event has been provided $5,000 or $5K for expenses for the past 3 years. They receive $3K or $3,000 for outreach services. The Garden Group receives $4K or $4,000. After several residents called into a previous budget meeting, $1,000 or $1K was provided as a line item for Juneteenth. Based on the racism and history of Mount Rainier, Sundown City, etc., what is your plan to ensure equality in funding, creating an African-American outreach committee, and the preservation of Black history? This would include MLK, Marcus Garvey Day, Juneteenth, etc. Those dates and events that are important to our community. Also ensure that Black folks are able to participate on this committee, even if working on another committee. Thank you. I'll start with Ward 1 candidate Danielle Carter. You have 1 minute.
Thanks for that question. I actually plan to ask if I'm elected and sworn in to create a line item for African American Heritage Month as an equal $5,000 to the Latino outreach. I also, as part of my platform, would like to establish a Juneteenth committee, a committee of African Americans who live here in Mount Rainier, to come together and make plans for the events and holidays, some of which you have outlined here, but but to also include like Emancipation Day, which is the day that the slaves were emancipated here in Maryland as a holiday. So these are things that I have looked at closely and things that I want to do. I've recognized that there hasn't been any real representation, but I plan on representing my African American friends and neighbors just as hard as I will for anybody else.
Thank you, candidate Carter. Candidate St. Louis, do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, repeat it, please. Yes, please.
Sure, let me get to the meat of it. Based on the racism and history of Mount Rainier, what is your plan to ensure equality in funding, creating an African American outreach committee and the preservation of Black history, inclusive of MLK, Marcus Garvey Day, Juneteenth, etc., those dates and events that are important to our community, also ensuring that Black people are able to participate on this committee, even if working on another committee? Your answer starts now.
Yes, thank you so much, Arnett, for that question. And I want to thank you so much for putting together the recent event that we had. I believe it was last year, of course, for Juneteenth. We had a celebration. Unfortunately, I couldn't make to that event. I was pregnant at the time and I was super busy. But anyway, I thank you so much for that. We definitely need to establish a civic association or a committee, as you stated, when it comes to African Americans, Black people here in the city, as far as what our needs are. There isn't enough of that in the city. And I think because we don't have that representation, definitely. So I think definitely that's something that's extremely important, because majority of our residents are Black, Latino.
And that is
so,
your time, candidate St. Louis.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Thank you. Candidate Woodall, again, what is your plan to ensure equality in funding, creating an African American outreach committee and the preservation of Black history, inclusive of historical days, also to ensure that Blacks are able to participate on this committee, even if working on another committee? Your time starts now.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the question. As a city council member in my first year, I was proud to stand with the city as we raised the flag for Juneteenth. And then we worked and walked up to North Brentwood, the first African-American community in Maryland. And I listened very, very intently when Evan Dame, the city council member up there, spoke about his voice and having his representation there and everywhere. And I think it's truly important. And that's one of the reasons I really love this community, is that it is a truly diverse community. And I'm here to support everyone and everywhere as we move forward and continue to build representation and history and stories and the truth about what's happened in our world. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Woodall. Candidate George, again, what is your plan to ensure equality in funding, creating an African American outreach committee, preservation of African American history, Black history, and subsequent holidays, also ensuring that Black people are able to participate on this committee, even if working on another committee? Your minute starts now. You're on mute, candidate George.
I'm sorry. I had to give up my position on the ethics committee to be a part of the police advisory board. So I do think that the council needs to reconsider the fact that you can only serve on one committee, depending on what committee you're already on. I was co-chair of the Juneteenth committee for our first Mount Rainier Juneteenth family celebration. I was approached by Sergeant Robinson to help get that event off the ground. I think it was successful. It needs to happen. I am open to definitely having more cultural events for African Americans as well. African Americans and Latinos are combined the biggest part or population in the city. So that needs to be given emphasis. The Recreation Committee, I think, gave us $2,500. Joe's Movement Emporium was gracious enough to help underwrite the cost of entertainment to make that possible, because it's just impossible to do an event for $2,500.
And that is your 60 seconds, candidate George. Thank you very much. Moving on to our next question. It comes from Tom Thompson. We'll start with candidate George. What are your thoughts to get all of the speeding cars under control? Candidate George, your 60 seconds starts now.
All of the speeding cars.
What are your thoughts to get all of the speeding cars under control is the way the question was written.
Okay. Well,
Your 60 seconds again starts now.
Okay. I know that the city is currently using speed cameras and speed bumps as a deterrent for speeders. I know I've had to slow down. I've gotten the speeding tickets, maybe going 5 miles over, but for people that are just really egregious and not concerned about safety in residential communities and putting people at risk, if police enforcement is able to stop them, possibly higher fines could be a part of the solution.
Thank you, candidate George. Candidate Woodall, same question.
Thank you. And thank you for the question. This is an issue near and dear to my heart. I have to tell you that technology is not stopping. So right now we're talking about cars, but at some point you might talk about scooters or skateboards or any mode of transportation. And so one of the most important things I think we should do as a community is to make sure that our streets and our sidewalks are appropriate for all users and all modes of transportation. And that includes personal, self-driving technology. So crosswalks, that's really important because self-driving technology is programmed to see crosswalks and stop signs. If you don't have crosswalks, you can't go across, they won't stop as well, and things like that. So knowing there's technology out there, knowing that people want to walk and bike and scoot and get around however they want to get around is really critical. And so we are working on a street and sidewalk study now. I worked as a city council member to push the timeline up so that we could be first in line with our hands up for the federal funding that is coming down the pike. And so that's really critical.
That is your 60 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Woodall. Candidate St. Louis, again, what are your thoughts to get all of the speeding cars under control? Your 60 seconds starts now.
So yes, this is a personal issue for mine as well. Definitely with speed cameras, I'm looking to see what the council can do if I'm elected to figure out a way for us to communicate with the DC government as far as setting more speed cameras, because it's ridiculous how cars, how fast they drive. It's just not safe. It's not safe at all. Definitely more speed bumps as well. That would definitely help. But even with speed bumps, sometimes it doesn't help, but definitely speed cameras.
Thank you, candidate St. Louis. And finally, candidate Carter. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Thank you. Actually, I was almost hit by a car on Rainier while I was outdoor knocking, and 2 on Upshur. So I totally understand. And we recently had a friend of mine, her daughter was almost hit by a school bus. So I do understand that the need for traffic calming devices is desperate. I think that what the council is doing now with their study is a good thing, but we need to do something now. And I'd like to find a way, partner with the police department and public works to find the real bad trouble spots and even put up temporary rubber bumps until we can get that finished and completed. There's also stop signs. If you go through Heightsville, you can see stop signs that have the lights that, flash to let people know that you need to slow down. There are things we can do. And I really want to try to put my brain to work and find those things to expedite this study and to find solutions that are going to help us now while we wait for the study to finish.
Thank you, Candidate Carter. Our next question comes from Joseph Jakuta. In 2022, the City Council committed to phase out climate pollution from city operations by 2035. What are your plans to make progress toward that goal in the next 4 years? And we can start with Candidate Woodall. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Thank you. Yes, I'm also, this is another issue that's near and dear to my heart. And I think the city is making good progress through its Green Team and Tree Commission to continue working through climate solutions. And I have been working, one of the things that I'm pretty proud about and just pretty proud about is Mount Rainier has 2 green schools certified by the Maryland Association of Outdoor and Environmental Education. And so, teaching climate solutions at the local elementary school, continuing that into middle school and high school is also key. I would also say that Prince George's County is leading the state in green school certifications. And so that's pretty exciting news, and it's good to see. And that's, I think, where we can continue to push on climate and things like that in schools, in the departments and things like that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Woodall. Next question is the same question, excuse me, it's for Candidate St. Louis. Again, in 2022, the City Council committed to phase out climate pollution from city operations by 2035. What are your plans to make progress towards that goal in the next 4 years? Candidate St. Louis, your 60 seconds starts now.
Yes, I'm going to echo what Ms. Valerie said as far as what the Tree Commission has been doing so far as combating pollution issues. That's pretty much going to be a part of my platform to partner with and continue with the communication with the Tree Commissions to make our city more beautiful. That's it.
Thank you, Candidate St. Louis. Candidate George, same question. Your 60 seconds starts now. Candidate George, I think you're muted again.
Okay, I'm
60
sorry.
seconds starts now, no problem.
Okay, climate is important to me as well. I'm a graduate of former Vice President Al Gore's Climate Reality Leadership Corps activist training. I think that one thing that we could do is get more solar grids in the city. It's a opportunity for a revenue base as well as helping out with sustainability, being green, and any efforts that we can make locally definitely will have an impact. So we can start at a local level and not, we can make small changes locally that will have a major impact.
Thank you. Candidate Carter, same question. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Right. Honestly, Joseph, I really don't know what is all in the plan for the city and the outline and the dates. So what I would do is I would look at what the plans that the city has laid out for this period between now and 2035. I would look and see and do some research and see what maybe things on there that we can expedite, things that may be on the plan for like 4 years from now, see if we can go ahead and implement those now or sooner. I would also look and see if we can't find grants, maybe tap into Wes Moore's environmental program that he's doing, and see what we can do to expedite it a little bit more to shorten that 2035 to maybe 2030. That's what I would do. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Carter. Next question is from Charnette Robinson. What is your plan to ensure that residents that live in the Arts District and mixed-use community are able to engage and participate in the planning of the downtown community? We'll start with Candidate St. Louis. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Oh, my apologies. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So my plan would be, as far as residents. So I don't believe that we should have any barriers as far as who would be able to be engaged with what. So having the arts district and the mixed use community, I would definitely.
I'm sorry, that's your time, candidate
Oh.
Samuels. Same question for candidate Carter. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Actually, I'm surprised they're not already being included in the planning. So what I would do is look and see why they're not included and see what I could do to reverse that. Maybe create a committee specifically for the artist loft or the mixed use community to come together, come up with ideas that they can maybe liaise with the city council and the city on their ideas, because, you know, there's only 5 people on the city council, but there are thousands of people in the community, and everyone's got ideas that may be better than the next. So I think that putting together a committee and including them in the design is appropriate. And I would like to see that done. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Carter. Same question for candidate George. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Well, as an artist myself, with Mount Rainier being part of the designated Arts Gateway District, I definitely think that artists as a resource are underutilized. Incorporating art is I think should be part of the economic rebranding of the city. We are a thriving arts community, and that's a draw for people. It needs to help make the city be seen as a destination. So definitely we are underutilizing the talent and the resources from our arts community. There are over 200 artists in the community. So that's something that the city needs to tap into more. And not just from.
Sorry to cut you off. Thank you. Same question for candidate Woodall. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for the question. So yes, this is part of why I've worked, economic development and arts communities and all the groups that need to be at the table when decisions are being made. This is part of why I've worked over the last year to help support the Gateway CDC, because a community development corporation that is a 501c3 nonprofit institution in the state of Maryland can help us not only leverage our city tax dollars in Mount Rainier, but it can also continue to bring more artists. It can help artists grow. It can help art, like through the Gateway Media Arts Lab. It can help artists, be able to afford the places that they rent out of, or to own the studios that they work in, so that as the area redevelops, that we don't lose the character and the culture and the people that are here doing the work. And so that's critical. It's not just Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier is a very big, important part to that, but it goes all the way to North Brentwood and up to Hyattsville as well. And so just making sure that
that is your 60 seconds, candidate Will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question by Elise Moore. Do you have policy ideas to keep affordable rents, not just for artists, but for everyone in Mount Rainier as prices creep up across our region? First question to candidate Danielle Carter. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Thank you. I think that was addressed with the rent cap that was just passed with the city council. I'm not exactly sure what the parameters for it are, but I do know that in the city of Mount Rainier and even in the county of Prince George's, apartment complexes and buildings cannot raise your rent above a certain percentage every year. So that's something that, I mean, if they're violating that, there are fines and fees. So I'm not really sure exactly what difference this question is to the rent stabilization bill that we just passed. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, candidate Carter. Same question for candidate George. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Okay, I'm unmuted again. I live at the Mount Rainier Artist Lofts. We have experienced a 10% increase, which is the largest increase that we've had in the 17 or almost 18 years that I've been here. I lobbied with local organizations to stop illegal evictions at the Ashley apartment during the pandemic when the rent moratorium was in effect. When we did stop it, I know the devastating effects of evictions in terms of credit, just the trauma and just for families rebounding. I've worked with the Prince George's Housing Justice Coalition and their lobbying efforts to get county council members to vote to support rent stabilization. It's a temporary measure. It's just in effect for a year. But I also know that enforcement from the city and the county has to be a part of the permanent legislation. We had situations in our own
And that
building.
is 60 seconds, candidate George. Same question, candidate Woodall. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. So yes, policy ideas, I have a lot of them. I think one first idea that pops into my mind as we continue to address affordability in the city of Mount Rainier for renters and for homeowners is one idea is community land trusts, where you work together to own the land yourselves together. Another idea is a homeowner repair program, so that people, I know the question was rents, but mortgages, same ideas. Homeowner repair programs so that homeowners can help make sure their homes are in good condition. I also think things like a community tool shed that allow for people to have appliances and tools that maybe are shared rather than everybody having to have their own, which can help address affordability as well. So those are just some of my initial ideas. Obviously, addressing rent and making sure that people are stable in their incomes is very important to me. So thank you.
And that's your time, candidate Woodall. Thank you. Same question, candidate St. Louis. Your time starts now.
Yes, so definitely, the rent cap is a way to keep the rent available and affordable for residents as well. I think we also need a committee to oversee not only as renters, but oversee the rent spikes that's happening in Mount Rainier as well. I think that would be good, so we could keep an eye and ear on the debt that residents might be facing on a day-to-day.
Thank you, candidate St. George. And our last question comes from Bob V. What would your ideas be to give code enforcement additional power to enforce city codes and clean up the city and enforce our codes? We will start with candidate Carter. Your 60 seconds starts now.
I really haven't given this much thought. I think Alma's doing a great job, but if she needs more power, then I think that we need to investigate what the best options for that would be. I do know that there are violations. I mean, we all pass by them every day. So I think maybe community tip line into the code enforcement to let them know of something that you may see that maybe even as a question. They do have 3 employees at the at code enforcement. So if somebody calls in and says, hey, I see this, I have a question about this with this house or whatever, they can go out and actually see that as a tip line as far as kind of helping them do their job. And if they need more help to enforce it, I'd be willing to listen to Alma and her department to find out what their suggestions are and take those into consideration and move forward in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Carter. Same question, candidate St. Louis. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Yes, I also would love to keep communication with code enforcement exactly on what their powers are exactly, so we could address them. I believe I would probably go from there, and then we could probably decide what would be best as far as what power should be given to them. And then also stay in communication with the residents as well and see what we could do to resolve the issues.
Thank you, candidate St. Louis. Same question, candidate Woodall. Your 60 seconds starts now.
Yeah, and thank you. Obviously, code enforcement and code compliance are a very tricky thing for small communities, especially, you know, as business owners and artists and all the works and homeowners and renters. I think, you know, obviously we should be giving our city staff the tools they need in order to comply with the laws that we write. And so one example, for example, is like a parking study, right? Like there's new businesses coming in around, you know, Penny Royal Station, Era Wine Bar. There's parking issues. Well, they want to attract lots of people. How do they get there? You know, and so, you know, that's one example of where I would like to see some more investment in terms of, you know, getting a study done, making sure that everybody sees the study, knows the study, and the, you know, city code enforcement can do better in terms of parking and other issues like that. But yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Woodall. Candidate George, your 60 seconds for the same question starts now.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think the council recently, during the last meeting or council meeting, decided that the fines were too low and that people really weren't taking citations or abatements from code enforcement seriously. So they did vote to be more in line with neighboring jurisdictions in terms of higher fees so that people would take it more seriously. But I think there's two sides of the issue. We had a situation in our building where our elevator was out of repair for almost 10 months. We called on city council, Jared, our Ward 2 council member, Valerie wasn't in office at the time, Selena, Mayor Benitez, Maryland Housing and Community Development, Code Enforcement, and there was no accountability or repercussions for the owners for taking 2 months to order a part that they knew was going to take 12
Candidate
to 14
George,
weeks.
that is your time. Thank you so much. We're going to now give the candidates each some moments for closing remarks. You will each have 3 minutes apiece, and we will start with candidate Carter. Your 3 minutes starts now.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Rhett, for your time tonight. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank Sherry and the rest of the MRBA for this opportunity to address the business community, as well as the residents who have tuned in to watch and participate. Thank you all. I have been campaigning since the end of February, knocking on doors, talking to as many residents as I can, while also respecting those who didn't want to answer the door and engage. I get it. I've been there. We are at a place here in America where many feel disconnected and even disenchanted with our government and the political process as a whole. I get it. I really do. They say that change starts at home. And for all of us, that is right here in Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier is our home. There have been a lot of great things happening here in Mount Rainier, but there is always room for more. And I hope that I will be given the opportunity to seek out, find, develop, and usher in new ways to improve the quality of life for all residents, renters, homeowners, and business owners alike. I do have a platform and an agenda for my term as councilwoman, and that platform includes the needs of the ward. The ideas of the residents matter to me just as much, if not more, than my own. If you see something that is bothering you or you feel needs to be looked at or improved on, I want you to tell me. Let's work together to improve on the things that we can and make our home the best it can be. Thank you again, and please don't forget to come out and vote on Monday.
Thank you, candidate Carter. 3 minutes as well for closing remarks. We will start next with candidate St. Louis. Your 3 minutes starts now.
Thank you so much, MRBA, for hosting this forum. It is so very important that the residents know exactly who they're voting for. Research is very, very important. I hope that I am elected to be your next councilwoman for Ward 2. I have so much experience in politics, I have volunteered for many different campaigns, and I'm hoping to bring all the experience that I had as a politician to be able to serve the community to the best of my ability. Thank you so much. Vote May 1st. Thank you.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Candidate Woodall, you're next. You have 3 minutes for your closing remarks, and your time starts now.
Thank you. And thank you to the Mount Rainier Business Association for being here and making this happen for all the candidates running for council on May 1st. So I think, I've told you who I am. I've done a lot of work over the last year for the city of Mount Rainier. I'm excited about the trajectory we're on. We've done a lot to get our streets, sidewalks moving again, make sure we have a study, we're in line for federal infrastructure funding. That's a big deal for the city. And I like what we're seeing. Our city staff are working extremely well together. It's a great team. I saw them all at Franklin's for the staff lunch that they had recently, and it was just really great to see everyone working together for our residents. And I am extremely excited to see what we do in the next 4 years as a city, from continuing our local schools being green schools to building up the art community a little more, making sure that we are preserving affordability for everyone, and making sure that as we continue to build, grow, and we really do it to thrive in the future. So that's what I'm looking forward to working on. I'm looking forward to addressing some of the challenges we have. We have some grand challenges, but that's not scary. That's exactly what we need to be looking at and working through. And I'm excited to do that with you and for you. And so come out and vote on May 1st, and I will be there. And I might even have a tent this time so I don't get such a sunburn, but I will see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Woodall. Last and final for tonight, Candidate George, for your closing remarks, and you have 3 minutes, which start now.
Thank you for the Mount Rainier Business Association for putting on this forum, and thank you to every person that tuned in tonight, that you took time out of your schedule to be here, to listen to the candidates, to hear our comments, our platforms, and our views. I am really concerned about people being able to rebound post-pandemic, whether it be affordability, rent stabilization, food insecurity. A lot of people are still in a state of recovery and have not recovered post-pandemic. So in terms of ARPA money and enforcement of rent stabilization, that's important. I'm all for beautification projects, but I think we have to prioritize people over plants sometimes. Part of my platform includes a youth initiative. I don't think that we're giving enough attention to our youth and creating opportunities for them. I want to create a community carpenter apprenticeship program that high school students can get involved in and be prepared for the workforce and to join a union or get involved in a trade upon graduation. Economic development has to include all of the city. There's been so much emphasis on Main Street, AKA Rhode Island Avenue, and then probably maybe less on the 34th Street corridor, but there's the Varnum Avenue and Varnum Street and Arundel Street corridor that desperately needs attention. That's where a lot of our renters are. And I think for too long, that part of the town and bringing economic development to those areas has been overlooked. So that would be part of my initiative, as well as community policing, public safety, safe streets, looking out for our seniors. So I encourage everybody to please come out and vote on May 1st and look forward to seeing you at the polls. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate George, and thank you to all candidates for participating in the Mount Rainier Business Association Virtual Candidate Forum. And thank you to all constituents for watching. Vote May 1st. Thank you. Your voice matters. We're now going to have short closing remarks from MRBA President Sherry Roberts Lumpkin.
Thank you, Rhett Butler, for being the host of this virtual candidate forum. Thank you to all of the candidates for coming on and sharing your ideas with us about how to help our businesses and our community.
You went
lost
on
your-
mute, Sherry.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know I was muted.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Rhett Butler, for hosting this virtual candidate forum. And thank you to all the candidates for your great ideas about how to move the businesses and the community forward and help us all to come together and do better in the next coming years. I am really grateful to you guys for coming on here and sharing with us. We at the Mount Rainier Business Association have created some new things to help the businesses to thrive as well. We are starting a speaker series, which starts tomorrow at 7 o'clock, and it is in person. And we have some great speakers from different places to come and help us to learn how we can do better, what resources we have, where we can go, how we can make it all happen. I would love for all of you to attend. It is open and free. And we also have a new newsletter that we put out to tell you what's happening and how you can get involved. And we just look forward to doing more things. We also look forward to seeing you at the Mount Rainier Day. We'll have a table there and you can come by and learn more about what we're doing and where we're going. So thanks again for being a part of this. And we look forward to working with you in the future.
And Sherry, before you go, they're asking in the chat, what's the location for the events you mentioned?
It's at the Gateway Media Arts Lab. It's at 7 o'clock. I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you so much.
I apologize. I'm sorry. It's at 6 o'clock, 6 to 7:15. Thank you.
Okay, and again, that's at the Gateway Media Arts Lab.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to Brooke Kidd. Thank you to the City of Mount Rainier, of course, MRBA, all the constituents, of course, Mayor Benitez, we see you in the chat, and everyone that's been participating. My name is Rhett Butler. I try to be your host with the most, and good night. See you May 1st.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.